Welcome in. The Chiefs have a couple new players, a couple that you already know. A Friday drop of signings has happened, and rather than doing every one individually, we just figured they kind of come in pairs or trios or whatever. We just wait a little bit and get to it. So welcome in. This is RGR Football. I'm Ryan going rogue. This is Dan going crazy or ranting away, whatever we happen to be doing today. Dan, how are we feeling?
I mean, it's fine. Like, this was expected, right? Just a couple of things here and there. This is more of what I expected them to do to start free agency, not the couple of bigger moves that they've already made and things like that. But overall, like, this is exactly what we were kind of expecting.
Yeah, just filling in those little niche gaps. And, as much as I want to talk about one other guy, we're going to start with Kareem Hunt coming back. It's a low end deal, 1.5 base, got some incentives. I don't mind it at all, but I don't think those that are thinking that it's going to be a 1-2 punch, I don't think they're necessarily correct. I think this is going to be bodies at the position. Obviously, with Elijah in there, that changes things. Now, they had P. Ryan, so there's a 3-guy rotation that worked last season. But I do expect still either a draft pick or maybe more likely a UDFA signing or 2 is kind of the way I'm leaning. What do you think?
This should not prevent them from doing anything, honestly. I think Elijah Mitchell is good if he pans out and if they actually run more outside zone. Like, that's great. He'll be a good, useful player there. But his spot's not guaranteed, especially if they draft a player who can do all of those things and is younger and doesn't have the injury history. Like, none of the contracts that you're seeing from running back position should stop them from either bringing in a UDFA if they like their skill set or even drafting one. Hell, both. Just do both, because you have Kareem Hunt, who's dealt with injuries over the past few years too. He was battling stuff last year. Like, let's not forget, just because he was the most effective running back in the running back room last year, which is hard to really get out when we're talking about the running back position and how it was pretty much awful for most of the Chiefs season last year. But you have all of these guys, Pacheco, Mitchell, Hunt, that have injury problems. This is not a good situation to be in by any stretch. So rookie running back still needs to be pretty high on their list, specifically on day 3, maybe even the end of day 2, if that's how we're going to view this position, because this is the last year for Isaiah Pacheco. You have a 1 year with Mitchell and a 1 year with Hunt. Guess what? After next year, it's basically a completely open room. There's nobody there.
Well, there's the Carson Hunt show or Carson Steele show. So, I mean, we can always get
clearly
that.
view him as a fullback, which, I mean, whatever.
Hey, that's okay. I was still down with the use check thing. If that had happened, I would have figured it out. So, hey, it would have been cool. But I agree with you completely. This is just part of the puzzle. You're going to throw bodies at it. I have a hard time getting into the 100, into the top 100 with a running back. But you never know with this class. If they feel like they get the guy they want in the first round, and then they have 2 back-to-back, like, you could basically, not back-to-back, but literally two picks
Close
apart.
Enough.
You feel like if they stick where they are, especially with the 260s, that maybe it is a running back that could sneak in there depending on what they get done. So I think, again, this goes back to Brett Veach's plan is to always keep his options open on draft day. And that makes sense because he's put himself in a hole before. The McCall Hardman pick was directly related to what was going on off the field, and hopefully we can avoid that in the future. Now, Kareem's a pretty easy one. A low injury signing, same thing with Mitchell, not breaking the bank in any ways. Bring him in, see what they got. Whoever survive camp. Okay, fine. But the other 2 are a little bit different. Now, this goes hand in hand because we haven't talked to you and I about the whole Gardner Minshew signing. Like, I'm all for having, diversity in the quarterback room. You might as well have a hippie in there too. So it doesn't bother me, but he definitely doesn't fit what I expected to be the tone of that room.
Yeah, when you look at what we've seen he's closer to the Chad Henneys of the world in terms of he's not going to be the most crazy thrower of the football. Carson Wentz was objectively awful every time he stepped on the field last year. So they want to mitigate that problem, and Gardner Minshew is going to come in. Yes, he might make some stupid decisions, but overall, I think you can trust him to execute the plan far more than you can at Carson Wentz, who, again, is out there maybe just throwing it, slinging it around, whatever he wants to do, just throwing it into double coverage because that's what he wants. And I think that they wanted somebody that will react better to being told exactly what to do, someone that will execute the plan, like I previously said. So Minshew could be fine at the end of the day, I don't really care. Like the backup quarterback position means nothing to me because if they're playing, the season's over anyway. That shit don't matter. Like it doesn't matter.
We are over the cliff. I get you. Well, for Minshew, I think it gives you another plus. I thought he played pretty well initially when he played for Doug in that system.
Yeah.
I think it gives him another lease on what the monstrosity was that he played for last year in Vegas. Like, good for him. There's more upside here for the players, I'm saying, than there is for the team, because I agree with you. Right. Nobody's going to push, or quite frankly, no one's going to replace. Should Patrick even like twist an ankle and have to miss 2 games,
right.
There's no way that you can project any of these guys to win you ball games.
Absolutely not.
The best you can do is hope that they don't lose them for you. Now, to that point, my guy Bailey is back on the roster, folks. You know how I feel about Bailey, and I think he can give Minshew a run myself. But this is why. Because the upside is for Bailey as well, because he gets to learn from Reed again. He was here for about 5.5 minutes earlier last season before Cleveland destroyed themselves again and had to come pick him up off the practice squad. He actually gets to have a coach that can mentor and develop quarterbacks. So I'm optimistic. I will just say it that way. And if they were to get somebody some reps, if they were to get leads, holy crap, leads next year might be kind of fun. And get some guys in there, they might even be able to develop somebody that they can then move off of, maybe get some capital, that kind of thing. We'll see what happens. But I'm happy. I like the kid. We'll see what he can do.
In the worst case scenario, like you said, maybe they actually do have a couple of games where they don't have to worry about a fourth quarter comeback from the team or having to come back in the fourth quarter. And that's what Bailey Zappe would be there for, just to be a possible backup, because even at his best, he's the Chad Henneys of the world. He's not going to do a ton with his legs. He's going to operate the offense. He's going to come in. He's not going to want to make mistakes. Ignore the 3-4 interception game he had for the Browns last year when he was forced to start. Just ignore that completely, because what he is at his best is a guy who distributes the football. And if you look at through that lens, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown on the field, they can all be yards after catch stuff. They don't have to all be downfield stuff where Zappe's arm really just does not work. It's not really at his best. Yeah, right. It dies. So you want to get the ball out quickly. So that's what you're probably going to see in terms of with Minshew and with Bailey Zappe, is that Carson Wentz was not let's get the ball out quick. He's no, let me just do what I want to. Let me throw the ball down the field. That is not, I think, how Andy Reid wants the backup position to be. They want it to be more of okay, we have one read here, maybe half field reads. And that's what Minshew and Bailey Zappe will provide you.
Yeah. And I think the reaction to how he played in Cleveland last year, if you guys saw any of the behind the AFC East or whatever the heck that was, the North, sorry, was pretty positive on the way that he went about it, because he does have 2 things that are specifically good in that situation, is that he processes rather quickly and he can deliver the ball and make a decision, get the ball out. Yeah. And that's what they'll have to do if he ever has to hit the field. So I like the fit. We'll see what happens. We have a couple of questions that we're going to get to, but first, Tevin, welcome to the memberships. I hope that you'll dig it. You can go back and watch all the member videos and get into them. They're a little bit different than these, but if you guys get some memberships, you can thank Dub Freak, always supporting us down here. Appreciate you, buddy. And so you might get a message. That's a free one. If you want to get into the extra content and stuff, you can upgrade. Got a couple of announcements. Matrix version 1 is out. You guys can go get it right now at rogueapc.com. I'm going to tell you right now, you guys can use the code RGR and get yourself a discount. I always do that for you guys. So I hope that you will check it out. Same format as last year. V1 is all the combine information, all rolled up, top 50, the guys that you just want to try to get. And then as the pro data comes in, we'll do version 2 later, closer to the draft guide that we are working away on as well. So nothing changes around here, even though we both have other responsibilities. We're still churning stuff out. So we're looking forward to it. And you guys can get those discounts in the member section. So I'll probably repost that here very shortly so everybody remembers. That said, the new GOATS gear is live and available. I finally got mine. So you guys can get that in the RGR store as well. I think I'm going to take this on my trip with me. I'm going to be out for a little bit. Dan and Gary are going to be holding down the shop. And I think I might post this from some various places. We'll see what happens. But on to your questions. We're going to ask those just before we get to Jerry Tillery that we told you about a couple of weeks ago, last week. It's been one of the guys that we thought could be a good fit. Now they have him. What does it mean? That's going to be the next question. So thank you, Dove Freak. Thank you, Jesus. Will the Chiefs regret the Tooney trade? Well, I think there's two minds of it. On a personal level, for the guys in the locker room and what he means, I think they all already do. You hate to see a friend walk out the door like that, and he certainly has meant a lot to the locker room. But in terms of what goes on, I don't think so. Joe played maybe his best season of his career, and he's 33 years old. There's nowhere to go but down.
Yeah.
So paying him at that rate was going to be problematic. And I know everybody's concerned that it was only a 4th-round pick. He's a guard. You don't get like top 100s for guards.
Yeah.
And yet you're going to be able to pick up another player, somebody like Hicks that they got in the 4th round, or Wiley that they got in the 4th round. Guys that actually can get on the field. You just bought yourself one by trading Joe Thuney. So I think in the end, I don't think they will miss it.
No, you have to be able to project, right? At the end of the day, this is what being a franchise that wants to not only win Super Bowls, but to consistently contend every year, every single year, a dynasty. That's what this is. They want to be able to do that. You have to get out under some contracts if you want to extend some players that you really like. And again, we can talk about the pluses or the minuses of the Nick Bolton and the Trey Smith eventual contract extensions. Overall, this is youth. They're young. They're trying to extend the players that they have that fit what they want to do and that they want to pay. And Joe Thuney, for everything he has been, an Iron Man at the position, obviously coming off the injury and still having a very good year, this season, and then playing tackle for them. It's you couldn't get his value any higher. Like Ryan's been saying, like that, he just showed what you can do for a guy and how you can protect a young quarterback. Caleb Williams is going to have that now. So overall, I don't think you're going to regret it. You might have some growing pains early on, but that's to be expected when you move off of a future Hall of Fame player like that.
Yeah, I agree. Now, before we get to Jerry Tillery, one more question, then we'll get to the rest of them, you guys. Donnie asked Tyler Lockett to the Chiefs. I'm a hard no on that. I don't think he's got anything left.
You have Hollywood Brown already on the roster that fills exactly the role that he would be. Like that's exactly the role you're bringing in a Tyler Lockett for. So it's definitely a no for me, especially because not just that, he's older and he's been nicked up the past couple of years. He's played through them, but that's just another thing you have to count on. If he goes down, well, what else do we have to do now?
Yeah, right. Okay, so that brings us to the third signing today. That is Jerry Tillery. We have been forecasting that for a bit, and I'll tell you why. The guy's been pesky. He's played for most of the other teams in the AFC West, just played for the Vikings last year, and he's always had a penchant for making plays in the pass game, and I think that's really the key. Like, he just gets in the way. He can crush a pocket. If you give him a little bit of leverage, he will run a guy back into the quarterback, and that's perfectly fine. He used to be able to shoot gaps. I haven't seen that in a while. We'll see what he comes in weight-wise. Yeah. I felt like he got a little trimmer as the Viking season went along, so maybe he can get back to that. I'd like to see it. But it just is another guy that has proven capability and experience to try to see if it will work. This is by no means like he's the starter next to Chris Jones or anything. You're just hoping that he can show you something.
Yeah, he's definitely not. If anything, he's the Tershawn Wharton of this current iteration. Like, he's not going to be your starter. Wharton was a much better run defender too. Like, let's be very honest about this. He was much better. You could kind of get away with playing him at one tech if you wanted to, because he can still handle some of those things. Jerry Tillery, for his length, no, he still cannot hold up against double teams on the inside. So if anything, we're talking about a pass rush situation where he comes on the field next to Chris Jones. They can move guys around and things like that. His best season, or quote unquote most efficient season, was with the Raiders in 2023 in terms of pass rush versus pressures. He also added more hurries in that season in terms of, speeding up the quarterback and things like that. So you're hoping you can get back to that. He's not going to wow you. This is not a guy who's going to come in and do much of anything. Don't expect him to be, a 5-sack guy, maybe 2 or 3. Like, that's the most you might be able to get out of him. And if he does, perfect. It's worth everything that you put into it, because you still have a lot more work to do along the defensive line, getting a run stopper, a backup for that run stopper, and then possibly someone that can even play over Tillery on pass rush situations.
Right, exactly. And that may be in the draft in particular. Played, I think, his third most snaps of a season last year in Minnesota, got 0 sacks. The pressure rate wasn't the same either. Now that's that defensive line. When you're playing next to Chris Jones, you don't get quite as much attention. Yeah. So there is an opportunity to have an upside there. For the player, it makes sense to play next to somebody named Chris. So I think that makes sense for him. I'm happy for it. They got to get some experience. They got to have fallback positions
for sure.
I'm really starting to look into the draft as to where they're going to get these guys that are going to play more significant snaps. B, if you were GM, how early would you draft a corner this season?
That's a good question because they just signed a guy to a 2-year contract, essentially, with $15 million guaranteed. You have Jalen Watson, again, 1 year on his contract, the same with Josh Williams. Those two players could very well not be in Kansas City next year, and it wouldn't shock me if one or both of them weren't. Josh Williams definitely won't be. We know Najee Johnson was tendered, I believe, earlier this week, so he'll be in Kansas City next year as well. I'm thinking more for special teams. This almost has nothing to do with playing time. He's not exactly going to be doing much from a cornerback position. But day 2 is where you start looking specifically on your board because you have 3 picks on day 2. You probably want to go defensive line with your first pick unless you get some crazy guy that falls on the offensive tackle side, and you can go get them and try to do that. But day 2, how the board falls, you're looking at corner, defensive line, still defensive tackle, probably more specifically, and then maybe wide receiver if things aren't going your way. Defensive players are just flying off the board. So I think corner on day 2, probably with that first pick in the 3rd round, is where you're looking at right now.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And maybe somebody will fall out that has some good upside. Like the guy who's like Matrix 1 for the corners is the kid Maxwell Hairston. Got some off the field things. I don't know what all that extended to, but if you can get into the 60s, you might have a shot at something like that. I am of the opinion that what they miss right now at the corner group is speed. So you got to have the size, but you got to have the speed as well. So I'd like to see them try to make some moves. We'll talk more about the corner group and what it has to offer here as we get closer to the draft. Appreciate you, B. Lee, nice to see you, buddy. Could the Chiefs sign Elijah Moore and Willie Gay and leave the rest to the draft and after the draft free agency? Maybe. I'm not 100% on Moore, only for the fit. And the more I hear DeAndre Hopkins talk, the more I know that there are obstacles in learning the playbook. And I do think that is something that we got to keep in mind. Not to be negative, but it does take somebody that can really dig in and absorb that. And I'm just not sure there. Willie Gay, absolutely. I'd like to have him and Isaiah Simmons on cheap $3-4 million contract, just like he played in New Orleans last year. And then they're athletic, and then they have more speed, and they have some experience there. I would take those guys and run with it, and then deal with what you have to deal with.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you need to find some linebacker that you can put out there in some nickel situations, some obvious passing situations, because for everything that PFF will tell you and some data will tell you, Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil were not very good in pass coverage last year. They just weren't. So you have to find somebody, whether it's through the draft, again, probably not through the draft, but in some way, shape, or form. And specifically because Willie Gay's played in the system already, it makes a lot of sense. You'll be able to get him on a 1-year cheap contract, and he can come in and do exactly what he did before.
Yep. Spot duty. It'll be great. Caroline, nice to see you. And folks, check out NFL 33. Our latest piece is Caroline's work, and you can find her on NFL 33 right now. She started a great series and started with the Chiefs about how they use their top 30 visits. Is really intriguing stuff, and she's doing a hell of a job. So check it out. How early do we take a running back in this year's draft? Like, what's the earliest that you're comfortable with? Is it that 95?
Yeah, it's the last pick in the 3rd round that the Chiefs have is the comfortable one for me. Outside of that, I mean, I don't want to go any higher, specifically because of other positional values that you're going to get in this draft, but because it's deep too. Like, you can find guys on day 3 again. They'd have to find a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick somewhere if you can trade down and maybe get one of them. But overall, that's probably what you're looking at least in my opinion.
I'm a little more comfortable at 133. That is a large drop. But then after 133, it's 226 right now. So that's a huge drop. So I'm kind of aiming at that 133 more so, but we'll see. I do expect that they're going to move and probably acquire some other picks. So I think it's going to be fine. Thank you, Caroline. And let us know in the chat. What spot would you go? That's what I'd like to know. Bert, it's looking like the Chiefs will be able to draft best available and starting at 31 in the 1st round. Flexibility does help. And that's exactly it, Bert. That's what he's trying to do. Veach wants to be able to go any direction that he feels like at that point. Amron, what's your current grades on free agent signings for the Chiefs? Overall, what do you got? Or do you have individuals?
I don't have individuals. Like, I'm not going to go through and grade every single one. But overall, I think this is a C+. thing that a C plus free agency they've gotten, it can get to a B minus B with, obviously we have to wait and see, because Christian Fulton, for everything that he did last year, is an injury risk. It's a bet on what he was able to put together last year. Jalen Moore has 12 starts in 4 years. And if you watch the film review, there's not a ton different than what they were dealing with last year in terms of getting beat around the edge. That's where the discomfort in that whole situation lies. And they've come out and said they are projecting him to get better. Okay. It's a tough pill to swallow when you're bringing in guys that are kind of injured and are still being projected to get better at 27 years old. We see that doesn't always work out. So C plus, I think, is where I would land on that. And that's not even, that's kind of disregarding some of the money moves that they made, which we've talked about before. I won't continue to get into, because at this point, it's not my money. I can't change that, but it's projecting that makes it the floor that I've got it at right now.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I would agree with you. C plus is probably where it's at right here for me as well. Patrick, Ryan just called Veach and said, let's go get Tillery in the building. Yeah, hey.
We'll be right back.
If the bat phone was still working to Veach, I definitely would have. Not any longer. Become a YouTube member. Thank you, Jimmy. Welcome back. I think I've seen you in here before, so cheers to you. Hannah, thank you. Nice to see you. Excited that Kareem is back. In my humble opinion, he has a better vision than Pacheco, and will have a full season with the team. Competition in the running back room is a good thing. It definitely is a good thing. I completely agree with you. And I will tell you this. He came in cold. He came in off of the couch. So going through OTAs, going through training camp will help Kareem be more resilient, so he doesn't get wore down as much. I think he'll have more punch for longer as well. And it gives him another go-to guy, particularly in short yardage. And I agree with you. In between the tackles, his vision is better. And I think they still have to upgrade, even with Elijah in there. Although I do like the way that he runs when he can run. He can't always run. So I do think that they're on the right track, but it's not over. None of these things that they've done are, hey, that position's taken care of. Even Jalen Moore. I do think that left tackle is still highly, highly on the table. Just might not have to be 31, but it's probably going to be in the top 100 anyway. So, in fact, I just came across a guy the other night that I was like, oh, maybe he could be another dev guy like Ethan Driscoll. I don't know. He's a Wolverine, though, so I'll have to ask you about him later, Dan. Let's see. Thank you, Hannah. Appreciate you. Matt, thank you. Am I selfish for wanting MVP season from Pat? I wouldn't say so. I want to get back to our offense putting up numbers again. I don't have you don't have the best quarterback in the world, and not let him be himself. Live by him, die by him. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know if you're selfish for wanting an MVP season from him. I don't think you're going to get it in terms of 2018. Like, that's in the past. It's not happening anymore. Like, that, you're not going to get those out of him, and you shouldn't honestly be asking him to do that. The running game needs to be reinvigorated. It has to. I don't care what his numbers look like in terms of the big yardage, the big touchdowns. They need to be able to run the ball. If they can't run the ball, we're going to continue to see the exact same problems that they've had, whether it's Patrick having to lift them at the end of games in a regular season game against the Carolina Panthers or things like that. Like, just, they have to be able to do more with the run game. And at the end of the day, if his efficiency improves, if his yards per attempt improve, I'm happy.
I don't blame you a bit. That would make me happy myself. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you. Let's get back here. We're going to wrap these up, folks. We're not going too terribly long because we got some things going on today, as we usually do. Donnie, thank you. 2 questions for you. Why in God's name has Mekhi Becton not signed anywhere yet? Because he can't stay healthy. And when the 1 or 2 times he has, he's not terribly productive. I don't think he's an upgrade, and he has to be a guard at this point. And 2, what do you think of bringing in John Comiskey? What do you think?
I don't know anything about Comiskey. I'll be very honest about that. But Mekhi Becton he played 1 good season in the best offensive line and offensive line room in the NFL with the best offensive line coach. If he's not going back to Philadelphia, teams just don't want to risk on something like that, to be very honest.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. I don't know that I would either. So it is what it is. Cooge, nice to see you. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you for the support. I don't want to be that guy, but is there any worry about Patrick's play moving forward? The last 2 years he's regressed statistically. Am I crazy? You're not crazy, but I don't think that there's anything to be more concerned about other than you're not doing your job putting the right tools around him. It was the worst wide receiver group that he's had. first, and then an O-line that fell apart. So I don't think that you're doing right by him the last 2 seasons.
And if you guys have listened to me for a while, you know that I put a lot of this on Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid's forcing him to be a little bit different than he actually wants to, and it's put him in a box per se. He's missed a couple of deep shots over the past few years, but what we saw in the Super Bowl is, at least in the second half of the Super Bowl, not the first half, is more of what I think Patrick wants to be at his core. They can do it. They can. Now, you have to reset the offensive line. He has to get used to the left side. Now it's going to be different. You're going to have Jalen Moore. You're probably going to have Kingsley at left guard. And then in a year or two, you're going to have a new left tackle, because it's not going to, I'm not expecting Jalen Moore to get just drastically better, guys. I'm going to tell you that right now. 2 years away, I don't think he's going to be the starter in Kansas City. I think this 2 years is a grace period to let Kingsley develop. He'll be 23 years old. 23 years old in 2 years. Okay. Just think about that. All right.
Right.
That's what this is. This is a grace period to let their young player develop, get him at a cheap contract to extend, and then hopefully you get a left tackle of the future when he's 23 years old. That's my opinion. Okay. Maybe I'm just an apologist for Kingsley Suamataia. You know what? I don't care. He got 1 season in the NFL, and the Chiefs said, screw you, basically. So I'm hoping that they can develop him.
I hope so as well. And maybe he turns into an all-pro at the left guard spot. That's fine. They have to go out and get somebody else in the next 2 years anyway.
For sure.
Cody, nice to see you. Good to see you as well. I like the Tillery move. Small deal, big potential. Pairing with Jones and potentially Amenahue. We'll see. I kind of thought that was what we hear around now, but haven't yet. Speed at CB. Who's out there left in the free agency or the draft? There's everybody in the draft. There's plenty of speed in this draft. So I would look for this roster to get faster all the way around. But anybody you got your eye on in free agency still?
Free agency? No. I'll be very honest. I didn't expect them to sign Christian Fulton. Like, I didn't really think corner was going to be an area where they went after in free agency. So when you have, I think, that already built in and baked in, you do have the ability to just kind of focus on the draft. And there are some guys, Darian Porter out of Iowa State, Noel Williams out of Cal. Those are 2 guys very different in terms of their build. To Darian Porter's like 6'4". He's super athletic. He's long. And he's still learning. He's got great instincts and understands like the basics of how he's trying to transition from wide receiver to CB, but he like understands the fundamentals of playing cornerback and how to react and read the wide receiver. So you like that. Noel Williams is just one of the most instinctual, fastest players. He's got really good burst to recover when he is beaten, because corners get beat, guys. They're all going to get beat at some point or another. But when you have that ability to burst and get back into that hip pocket with your receiver, that's what you're looking for. So those are 2 guys like that I'm big fans of. In terms of the speed, the athleticism, I think we'll probably see Darian Porter end up as a second-round pick, which is kind of crazy for a 6th-year player, but that's probably what you're looking at.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that as well. And he's a guy that fits specifically the Spags mold. So just write his name down now. Talks you might as well.
If they can get him, they probably will.
Right? Larry, will the Chiefs bring back Noddy and Pennell? It feels like one of them, but probably not both to me. Do you disagree, Dan?
I don't think either of them.
No?
I don't think either of them.
Anthony Belton at 25 from Caroline?
At 95, sure. Absolutely.
95, sorry. 25.
I'm all in at 95. Like, I would love to see Anthony Belton at 95. I think he played better in the pre-draft process than he did at NC State this past year. And then, 2023, he was excellent, and there was a lot of projection he'd be better in 2024. It didn't happen for him, but he has the length, he has the size. Honestly, I think he has the athleticism to still play tackle in the NFL. Don't let people tell you that these guys are all going to play guard. Let them play first. Let them play in the NFL first, and let the teams that draft them decide what they're going to do, and not just say, just because everyone has this length, arm length, or this length, or what everyone else says, just kind of let it go. Let the process happen. I think that's what I've tried to do for the most part, is let the process take over and see what happens. Because guys like, Donovan Jackson, who was a guard at Ohio State, played tackle for them because he had to, turned out to be pretty damn good at tackle. Like, I would just say, let him play tackle first and see what happens.
There you go. It feels like that might make sense. Jeremy, a live stream. I wasn't anticipating that. Yeah, honestly, neither were we. So we just decided to do it kind of last second and see how it went. And good that you mentioned that because we're just about to wrap. We have one more super chat we're going to take care of. Make sure that if you guys want this, you can get it at the store. Go grab that. If you want to see the Matrix, it is out now. V1 is released as of last night, about, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning Central, but it's out there. You can get that over there. You can go read Caroline right now. This is her first War Room series. See what she has to say. I think you guys are going to really dig it. It's a hell of a lot of research, and I appreciate everything that she's doing. She's knocking out of the park so far. So make sure you check that out. We're going to get into our last question. Then I'm going to be gone here for a couple of days. Little bit. Going to take a vacation.
Time off.
Little family time. We got something cooking, so it's going to be fun. Dan's running the shop, so if everything catches on fire, it's all good.
It's usually me anyway. Like, it's fine.
So we'll wrap with Matt's question here, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. The narrative that Mahomes has regressed is wild. Let's not forget that 2 years ago he won the MVP, broke the record for total yards in a season with Juju, Tony, Sky Moore as his receivers, and that's fair. There is a ton of positives of what he's done recently. It's just, the last taste in your mouth is the last taste in your mouth, right? So if you correct the O-line, if you continue to get the plan back, basically they're going to rerun this year's wide receiver plan in 2025, exactly what it was in 2024, and hopefully they can get it to work. Hopefully they'll add some depth behind it as well, and I've got a couple of ideas that Dan's going to outline his guys. I'm going to go with my guys. Dan's going to have way more on the wide receiver spot than me because I just have a couple, but it's going to be fun. We have all the draft coming for you all preseason, off-season, draft season, whatever we call this now.
Yeah, right. Just the pre-draft process. It's from the end of the season until now. Like, that's what this is. So just try to remember that with quarterback play, just like anything, it doesn't stay the same. Like, Patrick has gotten to be the best quarterback on third down in the NFL over the last 2 to 3 seasons. Like, that's not a fluke. But we've also seen different areas kind of come back in large part because the offensive line, the receivers, they're jutting to the proper course and the proper direction with the way they're taking the wide receiver room right now. So I expect things to level out.
Yeah, I hope so. That's my fingers crossed right there. So last one, because Frankie had to sneak one in on me. So FLDB waved to everybody. Happy Friday, everybody. Draft is creeping up. Yes, it is. 4 years approaching for the memberships for him. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all you members and everybody here. Have a great one. Check out our fans over at Underdog. Just snuck in an extra for them, but you guys know the deal. We'll have more content for you next week, and we'll keep it rolling. Who knows what the Chiefs are about to do next? We're going to have a good time. So everybody, welcome. Have a good one. Dan, enjoy the daughter. Jimmy, I shouted him out before while you were.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. I didn't know. He said we missed him, so I don't know. I want to make sure we don't do that.
No, did he have a question I missed, though? Hold on.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I did just see one or a couple. What do you think of Ollie Gordon? I don't know him.
So I'm not an Ollie Gordon guy. I'm going to say it now. I'm not. He's basically a bruiser between the tackles. It's fine. But outside of getting up to speed, I have a lot of questions about his athletic ability, his lateral agility, and being able to actually run outside the tackles. I just don't see him as a guy that can come into an NFL offense and then execute more than just running between the tackles. Person like what we saw with Kareem Hunt last year, that works only so long. And I think that's pretty much what you're going to see, but he has worse vision than Kareem Hunt, in my opinion.
Gotcha. I haven't seen him at all. I want us to go D-tackle with our first pick and edge with our second and the offensive line later. Yes, I finally had to join. Well, good job. Thanks for getting in there. I'm just a little iffy. There's a couple of edges that I think can fit this system. It's going to be tough, though. There's a lot of like linebacker types and a little bit less power-oriented guys. You can find them here and there, and I'll probably tell you when I get back about my favorite one, a guy that I think really can fit into this scheme very well, but you got to time it right. And once news gets out, I'm not sure that they're going to have an option to wait that long on them. So we will see what happens. But Jimmy, sorry I missed those questions from you, and I just saw Red Hood got one in there too, so we'll nail that. If Andy called a game plan like we used to with Smith, McNabb, and Feely, et cetera, Mahomes would be good. Yeah, stats, we'd have an offense, and maybe I'm delusional. You're not delusional. He definitely has evolved. Andy has evolved over the years, and it's paired with every quarterback. Things change a little bit, and sometimes you got to get back to what you do. That's just the way it feels.
Always is, man. You just gotta. This is all cyclical. Right now, the running game's coming back. Like the running game is coming back because defenses are basically saying we don't want quarterbacks throwing the ball down the field. We don't want it. So run the ball. And teams that are willing to lean into it and that can lean into it take advantage. And the Chiefs last year couldn't and didn't.
No, but they better now. We hope that they will, and you guys will finally get to hear me not be the guy that's screaming for more run game. Let's see if we can get that done. We'll try. Dan, say hi to the ladies for me and have a good weekend.
We'll do. You too, man.
All
Have a
right.
good one, you guys.
Knock on wood. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.